Hello, my loves. Welcome to Pain to Joy. My name is Danielle and I am so thankful that you have chosen to be here with me today. Before we begin, if it feels all right for you, I invite you to place one hand on your heart space, one on your lower belly, and take a deep inhale, sinking into this moment. And a long exhale, shaking off all that no longer serves and perhaps never did. I felt called to record right now as I was reflecting on some things I shared in last week's episode. I almost didn't put it out there because I felt that it wasn't super succinct and there were some inconsistencies in information and I didn't want people to be confused. Although I chose to share because what I've realized is the feeling was good, and it makes me think of that Maya Angelou quote about how we don't remember what people said, we don't remember what people did, but we remember how they made us feel. And I felt like when I was sharing, I was in a deep heart space of doing my best to accept this new reality that I have experienced many times before of retraining my brain, healing, being super fatigued. I am very thankful that I think it's been 3 days since I've had a full-on migraine, so that's very exciting. And I am incredibly thankful. Yet I am still incredibly fatigued. There is still a lot of PAIN. And as I move into some new activities for physio, for healing, for gaining strength, that takes a lot out of my brain. And I am just flowing with it as best I can. And before I continue, some of the discrepancies from last week was that I had mentioned I was never officially diagnosed with a concussion, which is true. It was mentioned at least 3 years post-accident as I was going to physio for upper body ligament damage, soft tissue damage, weak neck muscles, etc. And I did end up seeing an amazing physiotherapist who was familiar with something I experienced called central sensitization, where your central nervous system is sensitized to light, sound, pain, you name it, it's sensitive. And I did go through a lot of exercises, and I wasn't clear last week. So when I was talking about tracking, what I was talking about was often a neurological test or testing to see how your body responds post-concussion, for example. A physiotherapist or a doctor will hold up a pen, and you look at this pen and you tell them how many pens you could see. And when I went to the physio last week, I could see multiple pens, even though she was only holding up one. And then she would move the pen up and down, and then later side to side. And as you're doing that, you're only tracking the pen with your eyeballs. You are not moving your neck, you are not moving your head. And just doing that a couple of times completely ramped up my symptoms. When I walked into the office, my pain level was at a 6.5 out of 10. And instantly after she moved this pen and I followed it with my eyes, my pain level went to an 8.5. And then I came home and it just kept getting worse and worse. So I just wanted to clarify that last week when I was talking about tracking or eye tracking, that's what I was talking about. And revisiting this exercise last week that I used to do so often years ago, when I was tracking lasers with my eyes against a wall and doing a lot of these eye exercises at home as well, and learning techniques to calm my brain, has really gotten me thinking about things that we thought that we healed that we haven't. Now, this could be an emotional trauma. This could be something physical. For example, this knee injury that I had years ago that has been acting up. At some point, it felt good. At some point, it felt better. But it needs to be revisited. It needs to be properly healed and strengthened so that hopefully it won't cause me issues in the future. And there's all these things that keep happening that feel to me like synchronicities, where I'm being invited to revisit moments from my past, specifically experiences that I had for 9+ years post-accident, where I had gone through litigation and a court case for the injuries that I sustained in this car accident in 2010. And so part of me saying that out loud sounds weird. It's 2025. Why are we still talking about this? Well, we're talking about this because it's still affecting me, and because as much as I have healed through a lot of the traumatic parts of moving through that court case, certain things are coming up in my life right now that feel like an invitation to make sure it's healed. And I'll give you an example. My birthday was at the end of January. I love to read, but I don't typically hold physical books. That has been challenging for me. Therefore, I usually listen to books on Audible. And although I've cleaned out my house a couple of times in the last couple of years to rent it out, I have a couple of books lying around, one that my dad had given me, one that a friend had left behind that I never started reading. But for my birthday this year, I have a cousin who suggested to my aunt that she read a book. My aunt suggested to my mom that my mom order me this book. So every night before bed, I have been excited to snuggle into bed and read Run Towards the Danger, Confrontations with a Body of Memory by Sarah Polley. And for those of you who might not be familiar, Sarah Polley is an actor, a screenwriter, and a director. And from what I've seen of her work, she is brilliant. And at some point, as I've been reading this book, I ended up looking at some videos on YouTube. And there was a video of Sarah Polley on a late night show, and she talked about having had a concussion and how she ended up going to a program, I think, in Pennsylvania. And that's all I really knew about that. So last night, I'm nearing the end of this book, which is a huge feat for me. As like I said, I love books and I read books, but mostly listening. I ended up reading this paragraph that really described a lot of my experience, and it brought up so many feelings for me, because even now, as I am navigating these migraines and pain flares, it can be tricky to explain to other people how you feel. And so I'm just going to read this paragraph because it really spoke to me. She ends up losing a job because she's not able to do the work, something I very much identify with. And then she continues, "My memory of this period is dim, and the timeline's jumbled. But at some point during these foggy months, I go to a couple of family gatherings of around 17 people, where I find myself off kilter and completely slaughtered by the noise, chaos, and light. When I am exposed to this level of activity and noise, a pain shoots like a diagonal lightning bolt from the top left side of my head down across my body and into my stomach, where it turns into nausea. Even though I know I will feel sick for days as a result of the barrage of stimulus, I go, and as best I can, I pretend to be well." And the reason why, as I read this now, I feel emotional is because I feel seen. So when I was going through this court case where you go through a lot of different testing and a lot of questioning by various lawyers, my own lawyer would ask me, well, how does it feel? How do you feel? And I would say, I feel like I have an electrical storm in my brain. And he would say, well, you can't say that because that doesn't make any sense, or that doesn't sound medical. And so when I read, a pain shoots like a diagonal lightning bolt from the top left side of my head, even now I have chills reading it. And it's an awful thing to resonate with someone on. But it made me acknowledge and really feel into the truth that we heal when we are resonated with. And it is incredibly difficult for me to understand what I'm moving through, let alone describe it to someone else so that they can understand it, so that they can support me. And I've been really great at that in the past, but this last couple of months, I will admit, I haven't been because I'm just trying to get through it. Today, I went to the pool to do physio exercises. I got excited. I thought maybe I'll have the energy to do a few other things. And I thought, nope. I came straight home. I ate. I lay down and I fell asleep. And at this point in the day, I had only been awake for less than 4 hours. So it's incredibly difficult for me to know when I'm going to be awake, when I'm going to have the energy to connect with someone or not. And I've been doing something that probably isn't the healthiest, but I'm just not really connecting at all because it feels too challenging to connect. And it makes me feel sad to make plans and then cancel them. And in the past, I would be okay with that, but right now, I think I would feel more sad and devastated if I looked forward to seeing someone and then couldn't. And so for now, I live in the acceptance that I am focusing on nutrition and sleep and the physio, and I'm going to find out more from my physio appointment this week of where we're at and how we will retrain my brain. I've been looking at notes from my physio from years ago. I saw a video the other day that reminded me low intensity, high frequency, and I'm just doing the best that I can. And I truly believe that we all are doing the best that we can. And I share all of this as an invitation to be gentle with yourself, to be kind with yourself when something comes up that you thought that you healed. When something triggers you that you feel like, wow, didn't I go to counseling for years over that? Didn't I do a lot of inner child work, somatic breath work? Didn't I heal all of that? If something is resurfacing, like the tears that flowed out of my eyeballs last night and hot down my cheeks when I read Sarah Polley's words, I'm not going to judge it. I'm just going to be with it. I'm going to take a moment of self-compassion and love for myself and say, wow, that was really difficult that you went through years and years of people not understanding when you were explaining how you felt. It was really challenging when you were not believed when you shared how terrible you were feeling. It must have been really hard for you when you prepared for weeks on end and tuckered yourself out and arrived to a questioning session with a bunch of lawyers who said, oh, sorry, we're not ready today. We'll have to try again next month. That must have been infuriating, my love. No wonder you feel sad. No wonder you feel confused. And I can provide myself with some tenets of self-compassion. I can use a gentle, calm tone of voice. I can place my warm hand on my heart. I can say soothing things. I can also remind myself of common humanity. I can say, that must have been really challenging, but you are most definitely not alone. You are not alone now. You were not alone last night when you were reading that book. And thank goodness Sarah Polley wrote that book. Thank goodness she shared her experience and many, many others. Incredible. Highly recommend. But you are not alone. Because even if it's not the exact same, there are people struggling. There are people having a hard time. There are people going through court cases after car accidents right now that are not being heard, that are not being listened to. And it's awful. And my heart is with all of those people and with all of you, no matter what you might be moving through, sending you comfort, sending you ease. But you are not alone. Your experiences are valid, and any feelings that come up around them now, or 5 years from now, or 20 years from now, that's okay. Because we're all healing from something. And even if we think we healed it already, maybe we need to take the time and the space and extend some love to ourselves. I invite you to reflect upon something that you might be going through right now that's challenging. Maybe it's something fresh, a fresh wound. Maybe it's something that has come up 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 20 years ago. I invite you to place a warm hand on your heart or somewhere that feels warm and good to you, and use a gentle, soft tone of voice and let yourself know that that's hard, my love. It's hard to go through a challenge, but you are not alone. You will get through it. You are so loved. And you are so brave and courageous to feel your feelings, to acknowledge your feelings, and to trust and believe that when these feelings come up, when these triggers come up, these feelings are just letting us know that there's something to heal, that there's something to move through. Might be an invitation to reach out for counseling, might be an invitation to share with a friend or a spouse or a partner, to resonate, to heal, to get support. And for me, the important and valuable takeaway is that we are all healing from something. And if we can extend kindness and love and grace and compassion to ourselves, it makes it easier to extend love and grace and kindness and compassion to others. Because a lot of the time, when people are going through something, we don't know. They're not telling us. So could we please lead with kindness? Can we please be gentle with each other? Can we please be loving and compassionate? And as I've mentioned multiple times since I begun recording these podcasts, it starts with you. When you allow yourself to move through feelings and give yourself the love that you may have never received as a child or as an adult, when you give yourself that compassion and that care, it's much easier to give it to someone else. And if you've moved through something as you've listened to this, or if something comes up for you after having listened to this, or the next time you are triggered, or a memory of something comes back that you thought you had healed, but maybe it's still there, I invite you to do something comforting for yourself. Give yourself a hug. I'm doing that right now. I'd invite you to join me. Take a deep breath. Get outside, look at the sky, do something different, treat yourself. Treating yourself can look like going and doing that workout that you've been putting off. Treating yourself could be just stopping to get a hot chocolate or a tea. Treating yourself can look like canceling plans because you just need to be by yourself with yourself. I know not everyone has that luxury, and a lot of people have very full lives, full of little people and big people. But maybe treating yourself looks like saying to people in your life, I need an hour all by myself. And maybe that's just locked in the bathroom in the bath with a good book, or some music playing so it drowns out the noises from the house. There are so many different ways to show yourself love, but a pretty important one is to give yourself permission to have feelings, to allow yourself to feel your feelings, and to learn loving and compassionate ways to move through it. So please know that I am sending you the biggest hug. I want to thank you for holding space for what I did not know I was going to move through today, a vulnerable share and truth about my experience. I am always here to hear about your experiences, whether it relates to this podcast or something that's gone on in your life. Please feel free to connect with me at dksuttie, Suttie, at yahoo.ca, or on Instagram, danielle.suttie, or Danielle Suttie on Facebook. You can hear this on YouTube now, which is very exciting. And please know from my heart to yours that you are not alone, that you are never alone, that you are loved, that your feelings matter, and that healing is always possible. Sending so much love from my healing brain and my healing heart to yours. Until we meet again.